Howdy, and welcome back to Celebrating Vintage Model Kits. Another addition to French Week is this Hawk 1958 kit of the Nieuport 17 C-1. This is kit number 61350. It's originally molded in 1952, and it is in 1/48 scale or quarter scale. And we've got box art by Bill Campbell. So the Nieuport 17 was designed by Gustave Delage, and it was a development from the Nieuport 16, which was a development from the Nieuport 11. And it was slightly larger with better balance than the Nieuport 16. It's considered a sesquiplane, having a smaller, significantly smaller lower wing than the upper wing. And that gave kind of the advantage of both the monoplane and the biplane, less drag from the monoplane with a little bit more additional strength of a biplane. So the aircraft still maintained ailerons on the top wing only. The chord on the ailerons increased as it went out towards the wingtip, which helped improve the stall response. They were controlled by push-pull rods as opposed to cables. But the rear controls, the tail controls, the rudder, and the elevators were still operated by cables and pulleys. The angle of the incidence of the upper wing could be changed on the ground, depending on what they were trying to achieve with that. The tail was made out of steel tubes. The rest of the aircraft was mostly wood. But the sides and the forward fuselage area and the upper deck up here, including where the headrest is, was made out of formed molded plywood. The previous versions of the Nieuport did not have synchronization gear, so they had a gun on the top of the wing to fire over the propeller arc. But with the 17, they introduced a synchronization gear, and in the French versions they were made by Alcan Hamy, and that was connected to a Vickers 303 machine gun. The RFC used a different synchronization system made by Vickers Challenger, but it was very unreliable, so the RFC aircraft retained the upper wing Lewis gun. So that's one of the quick ways of telling if it's an RFC plane versus a French, if you can't see the wing markings. It's powered by 110 horsepower Laron 9J rotary engine. Later versions got an upgraded one with 120 horsepower. The first flight was in January of 1916, and it entered service in March of 1916. It showed outstanding maneuverability and climb. It was used by pretty much all the Allied powers. It was built by several French companies. It was also built under license in Italy and in Russia. Germans were so impressed with it, they made a copy of it. Siemens Schuckert D1 is almost a straight copy. And then the Yule company made one, but it just was a prototype. They didn't go into production with it, but the Siemens Schuckert one, they did make some. It influenced later German aircraft, the V-strutters, as they're so called. The Albatros D3 and 5 went to a sesquiplane construction, and also the Falls D3 was influenced by this sesquiplane design as well. During late 1916, early 1917, this became the only aircraft in all the French pursuit fighter squadrons. They were flown by most of the top French aces. At some point flew the Nieuport 17, including Guinemer, Nungesser, Boyau, Pinsard, and Dorme. The Lafayette Escadrille, or Escadrille Lafayette, also flew them. Raoul Loufberry scored at least 5 kills of his tally with the 17. The RFC and the Royal Naval Air Service, the Royal Flying Corps and the Royal Naval Air Service, ordered them from France. And a lot of the top aces with the British also flew the Nieuport 17. Bishop, Ball, Manick, Fullard was the top Nieuport 17 ace with 40 kills, all in the Nieuport 17. The Italians also flew them, and their top aces, Baracca, Scaroni, and Picchio flew Nieuport 17s, and also the Belgians, Meulemeister, Thiefry, and Olis Lagers. A little tough saying some of those names. So the Belgians also utilized it and had some success with it as well. So that's a little history on the Nieuport 17 if you're not familiar with it. Now let's take a look at the kit. So this is the typical late 50s, early 60s boxings of these smaller kits that Hawk was making. You've got a big stripe across the side with Hawk in bold letters and the Hawk head. Plastic models. You've got a copyright and a 1958 date on here. The address and 22 unassembled plastic parts. And, this is kind of the style of the 50s, early 60s box art where you just get this bright colors to try to make it pop off the shelf. Instead of a blue sky, you get this kind of a lime green colored sky. And some action going on. You've got a German aircraft going down in flames. So not quite as dramatic as the was it the Aurora Fokker D7? With the guy screaming in agony in the cockpit, but still getting some good action on here. On the side, we've got artwork for some of their other ones. You've got the A24. The SNJ Trainer, and the Dauntless. Incidentally, these little brown tapes have been added by somebody at some point, so that's not part of the original kit. And on this side, we got a big Hawk logo again, the T6 version of that SNJ Trainer kit, and the Spirit of St. Louis. On the end, we've got a profile shot of the aircraft, and the Hawk logo, and then the kit number was here. And same thing on this side. Nothing on the bottom. And this is one of the 50s versions of the box with the lithograph that's been folded over and glued down on a hard box. And here we've got our instructions. So we've got, looks like 15 assembly steps here, basic assembly instructions, Hawk logo again, and exploded view of the kit, a little bit of history on the kit itself, and specifications, and drawing, it looks like, of the built model. So pretty simple instructions. On the back side, we've got this really nice 4-view drawing, almost plans that'd be really nice for hanging up on a wall. These are copyrighted 56 and drawn by a guy named John Zawiski. So this would be nice to stick on your wall when you were done. Also pretty good for decal layout as well. And then here we have the decals. Not much to them, pretty simple. Get information on how to apply decals on the back and then their address. And what is kind of interesting on here, it's so simplified, I wasn't able to locate an actual aircraft that matched up with this, but if you read on the bottom of the instructions here, it says after the applying your decal, it says that these are English insignia on the plane, so these are RFC or RNAS. And the Indian head is of the Lafayette Escadrille, was added for appearance. So if you're going to be doing, you want to be more authentic, if you're doing the British ones, you don't want to put the Indian heads on there. But you don't have too much other choice because you just get one set of decals, or one set of markings, I should say. So there you have it. These are in pretty good shape. You know, a little bit of the sun, you will probably take out a little bit of that yellowing that's on there, and would still be usable. So let's look at our plastic parts. So we've got our fuselage halves here, and we've got some engraved lines representing some of the details. Some engraved lines representing, I guess, the fabric covered rear portion here. Some engraved lines for the tail striping, and engraved lines for the other markings, the red E and the Indian head. Nothing on the interior. A little bit of flash right there. And the tail skid is molded on 1/2. Let's see what the fit would look like on this. So, not the best fit in the world. Kind of off a little bit on the tail part here. So it's not the best fitting kit. And again, nothing on the inside. For detail, here's our upper wing. We do have raised lines on here for representing the ribs. And we've got raised markings with even some texture for the different colors. So here's the bottom side. You've got some ejector pins, so at least they put those on the bottom. And then here's the bottom wing. Here's where you can really see the sesquiplane in how small the lower wing is compared to the upper wing. This one does have ejector pins on the top part, which is annoying. We've got the markings molded on here, and then a big old hawk and a registered trademark on the bottom there too. So let's sand that sucker out. Now we've got one tree of parts. Surprisingly, they're all still attached on here. And so we've got, there's our cowling and engine. Looks like there's maybe too many cylinders for the rotary, but could be wrong on that. Here's our prop. Not too bad. Definitely got a nice curve to it. And here's our struts. There's our tail plane with raised lines on there representing the ribbing. Here's our Vickers machine gun. It's got a little bit of detail on it. Not too shabby. And then here's our Lewis gun with drum. There's no real representation of the, what was it, the Foster mount. This just looks like it just sticks onto the upper wing. Foster mount allowed for the gun to be pulled down off of the top wing to change the magazine, the drum pan magazine that you see on top here, and also allowed them to kind of shoot upwards. They could get underneath an aircraft and shoot upwards into it. And then there's our wheels, and that's it. Not too much to this. Oh, and then we got a pilot. This is your typical generic kind of blobby, nebulous airfix pilot that was included in almost every one of these little small kits like this. So that's it. Not a lot to this. But this thing's been around forever. Yeah, this is one of the early hot kits from, I mentioned, first issue of it was in 1952. That was a folding box, 3-color folding box, so fairly simple looking box. You got this 1958 issue here. And sometime in the 50s, there was a collaboration between Hawk and a company called Lincoln International, which I believe somewhere in the Orient. I remember reading about them for some other kit. And I think they might have been like Singapore or Hong Kong or someplace like that. But they did have their own issuing of it, and it had unique artwork to it as well. The 60s saw another reissue from Hawk, similar to this, but with the thinner cardboard with the the images printed directly on the cardboard. And then 1970 is after Testers had acquired Hawk, so there's an issue of this with the Testers name across the side added to the Hawk name. And then in 74, there's a Testers only with the 70s, early 80s Tester style photo box. And then in 89, there was another photo box from Testers, but using a different photo. And in the 90s, there was an issue from Smur. I wasn't able to source a image of that box, what that one looked like, but ScaleMate shows one by Smur in somewhere in the 90s. And then finally, Testers reissued this under their Classic series in 2009, and I have seen that kit not too long ago in a Hobby Lobby. It's got a little tab across the top with that you can hang it on a peg. So it's still around. So for a kit that's originally molded in 52, it's still being put out there. So pretty impressive. Well, that's about it for this one. As always, if you've got one of these built on your shelf, take a picture of it, send it in. You can tell us about it if you've built one in the comments section. And as always, thanks for watching, and have yourself a great rest of your day.